Hello, welcome back. This is day 9 of reading the Divine Comedy. We're on Inferno, Canto 9. I'll begin with the Longfellow translation of this canto before going into some reflections. That hue which cowardice brought out on me, beholding my conductor backward turn, sooner repressed within him his new color. He stopped attentive, like a man who listens, because the eye could not conduct him far through the black air and through the heavy fog. Still it behoveth us to win the fight, began he, else such offered us herself. Oh, how I long that someone here arrive. Well, I perceived, as soon as the beginning he covered up with what came afterward, that they were words quite different from the first. But none the less his saying gave me fear, because I carried out the broken phrase, perhaps to a worse meaning than he had. Into this bottom of the doleful conch doth any air descend from the first grade, which for its pain has only hope cut off? This question put I, and he answered me. Seldom it comes to pass that one of us maketh the journey upon which I go. True is it, once before I here below was conjured by that pitiless Erichtho, who summoned back the shades unto their bodies. Naked of me short while the flesh had been, before within that wall she made me enter, to bring a spirit from the circle of Judas. That is the lowest region, and the darkest, and farthest from the heaven which circles all. Well know I the way, therefore be reassured. This fen, which a prodigious stench exhales, encompasses about the city dolent, where now we cannot enter without anger. And more he said, but not in mind I have it, because mine eye had altogether drawn me towards the high tower with the red flaming summit, where in a moment saw I, swift uprisen, the 3 infernal furies stained with blood, who had the limbs of women and their mien, and with the greenest hydras were begirt, small serpents and cerastes were their tresses, wherewith their horrid temples were entwined. And he who well the handmaids of the queen of everlasting lamentation knew, said unto me, Behold, the fierce Erinus, this is Megara, on the left-hand side. She who is weeping on the right, Alecto. Tisiphone is between. And then was silent. Each one her breast was rending with her nails. They beat them with their palms and cried so loud that I for dread pressed close unto the poet. Medusa, come, so we to stone will change him, all shouted, looking down. In evil hour avenged we not on Theseus his assault. Turn thyself round, and keep thine eyes close shut, for if the Gorgon appear, and thou shouldst see it, no more returning upward would there be. Thus said the master. And he turned me round himself, and trusted not unto my hands, so far as not to blind me with his own. O ye who have undistempered intellects, observe the doctrine that conceals itself beneath the veil of the mysterious verses. And now there came across the turbid waves the clangor of a sound with terror fraught, because of which both of the margins trembled. Not otherwise it was then of a wind impetuous on account of adverse heats, that smites the forest, and, without restraint, the branches rends, beats down, and bears away. Right onward, laden with dust, it goes superb, and puts to flight the wild beasts and the shepherds. Mine eyes he loosed, and said, Direct the nerve of vision now along that ancient foam, there yonder where that smoke is most intense. Even as the frogs before the hostile serpent across the water scatter all abroad, until each one is huddled in the earth, more than 1,000 ruined souls I saw, thus fleeing from before one who on foot was passing o'er the Styx with souls unwet. From off his face he fanned that unctuous air, waving his left hand oft in front of him, and only with that anguish seemed he weary. Well, I perceived one sent from heaven was he, and to the master turned, and he made sign that I should quiet stand and bow before him. Ah, how disdainful he appeared to me! He reached the gate, and with a little rod he opened it, for there was no resistance. O banished out of heaven, people despised, thus he began upon the horrid threshold, whence is this arrogance within you couched? Therefore recalcitrate against that will, from which the end can never be cut off, and which has many times increased your pain? What helpeth it to butt against the fates? Your Cerberus, if you remember well, for that still bears his chin and gullet peeled. Then he returned along the miry road, and spake no word to us, but had the look of one whom other care constrains and goads, than that of him who in his presence is. And we our feet directed towards the city, after those holy words all confident. Within we entered without any contest, and I, who inclination had to see what the condition such a fortress holds. Soon as I was within, cast round mine eye, and see on every hand an ample plain, full of distress and torment terrible. Even as at Arles, where stagnant grows the Rhone, even as at Pola near to the Quarnaro, that shuts in Italy and bathes its borders. The sepulchres make all the place uneven, so likewise did they there on every side, saving that there the manner was more bitter. For flames between the sepulchres were scattered, by which they so intensely heated were, that iron more so asks not any art. All of their coverings uplifted were, and from them issued forth such dire laments. Sooth seemed they of the wretched and tormented. And I, my master, what are all those people who, having sepulture within those tombs, make themselves audible by doleful sighs? And he to me, these are the heresiarchs, with their disciples of all sects, and much more than thou thinkest laden are the tombs. Here like together with its like is buried, and more and less the monuments are heeded. And when he to the right had turned, we passed, between the torments and high parapets. Quick review, Virgil and Dante are kept out of the city of Dis by the demonic denizens within. Virgil claims that help from heaven is already on the way to open the gates for them, but for the moment they must wait. It takes so long for the angel to arrive that Virgil's starting to wonder whether or not he'll actually come, which of course causes Dante to lose his cool. While they wait, the Furies can be seen up on top of the walls, and they call for the Gorgon Medusa to come up and turn Dante to stone. Virgil tells him to cover his eyes, but then covers them himself. Finally, the angel arrives, all the souls and demons fleeing before it. He tells off the demons within for resisting the will of God and opens the gate without any issue. Dante and Virgil then enter the city, where they find a long row of sepulchres inhabited by the heretics. As soon as Virgil covers Dante's eyes, after asking him to close them himself, Dante writes to us, "Of all of you whose intellects are sound, look now and see the meaning that is hidden beneath the veil that covers my strange verses." From what I can tell, this is a metaphor for dealing with temptation, dealing with sin, maybe even addiction. Virgil, the one who's responsible for helping Dante to get through this journey, yes, asks him not to look, but also helps him not to look. Doesn't just tell him, but also physically helps him to do so. Why? Because he is not strong enough to resist looking. At a later point, sure, he probably could manage it by himself. But for right now, Virgil suspects he is not strong enough, and so he helps him out. The angel's words to the demons makes it clear that even in hell, the will of God is irresistible. All of those that are in hell suffer at the hands of, yes, their own sins, but also divine justice. And insofar as the demons are enemies of God and of everything that he is, they also are subject to the will of God. And the angel makes it clear that they can be punished still further for resisting it. And even as an example, points to Cerberus, who, according to Mark Musa, Hercules ripped off some of the skin around his neck when he was dragging him around. So the angel refers to an incident from Greek mythology that exemplifies the pointlessness of resisting fate. Except back then it was fate. Now, Dante calls it the will of God. And just like that, in a few short words, he's summarized the development of philosophy and thinking about the gods from Homer to now in the Christian era. And finally, just inside the city of Dis, they find heretics. What are heretics? Well, they are those who not only did not believe in the Christian doctrine, but they rebelled against it. And not just rebelled against it, but came up with ideas of their own. and not just came up with ideas of their own that were not in accordance with the teaching, tradition of the church and of the Bible, but they also persistently held to them, even after being told repeatedly, no, this is obviously not the case by the church authorities. In the coming cantos, we'll get a little bit of context as to what sorts of beliefs these heretics might hold, but that's all you need to know for the moment. The point is, they're persisting in what they ought to know is error. Mark Musa points out that the heretics are in a circle in hell that is outside of the three main divisions of incontinence, that's the top, violence in the middle, and fraud at the bottom. That's because heresy is not due to weaknesses of the flesh or the mind, nor is it a form of violence. So it kind of just exists by itself. That is all for today. I will see you tomorrow.